Most people who are developing AI systems at the leading edge just now think AGI is 5 to 10 years away. And I find this simply staggering. I don't think we are anywhere near ready, whether it be in government specifically or humanity more generally, for systems that perform at that level, for systems that can do almost everything that we can do. I think it's naive to suppose that we can actually control systems that themselves are able to outperform us. And people say things like just turn them off. But it is clear that these systems will have fail-safes in place. The challenge, I believe, is one of international diplomacy, not unlike nuclear test ban treaty negotiation, where we must see collectively an existential threat and set global standards. Saving humanity with and from AI is the defining challenge of our age. There's good and there's bad here. We just need to get the balance right.
Hi, welcome to the Global Missional AI Podcast, where faith meets technology and where we explore how innovation can serve the kingdom of God. My name is Joshua Seal, and I serve as the Director of Global Missional AI. What if the most transformative technology in human history arrives faster than anyone is prepared for, and the church is caught flat-footed? Most leading AI researchers now believe that AGI, artificial general intelligence systems, that can match or exceed human capability across virtually every domain is just 5 to 10 years away. That's not a distant sci-fi scenario. That's within the span of a single church strategic plan. Today's guest is Dr. Richard Susskind, one of the world's foremost thinkers on the intersection of AI, law, and society. Richard wrote his PhD on AI and law in the mid-1980s and has spent over 4 decades studying the social, legal, and ethical implications of emerging technology. He's a best-selling author, advisors to governments and global institutions, and one of the clearest voices calling for serious, urgent public conversation about where AI is taking technology. What makes Richard's perspective so essential for people of faith is that he's not a doomsayer, and he's not a hype merchant. He's a rigorous thinker who believes that we have roughly a decade to get this right, and that getting it right requires not just technologists and governments, but communities of moral conviction. As he puts it, saving humanity with and from AI is the defining challenge of our age. There's good and there's bad here. We just need to get the balance right. Before we begin, a quick word from our partner, Glue. Glue is the technology platform for the faith ecosystem, providing values-aligned AI and comprehensive solution for ministry leaders. Visit gloo.com to learn more. Also, the Global Missional AI Summit 2026 is happening April 7th through the 9th in Santa Clara, California, or Silicon Valley. We are currently offering tickets. There's currently a early bird pricing going on, and we would encourage you to go over and book those tickets. We do expect the conference to sell out, and this will be the largest gathering of its kind, bringing together technologists, faith leaders working in the space of AI. Go to missional.ai to register now and to find out more. Now let's dive in with our conversation with Dr. Richard Susskind.
My name's Richard Susskind. I'm half a lawyer and half a technologist. I wrote my PhD on AI and law in the mid-1980s, and I've really spent my entire life thinking about the social, the legal, the ethical impact of AI.
Richard, so great to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for your session at Missional AI today.
Pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I want to kick off by asking a question that you reflectively pose to the audience. What if AGI?
Well, AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence, and this is the idea that machines at some stage will be performing at a level that's equal to humans across the full range of our cognitive tasks. Basically, they'll be as, and I use inverted commas here, as clever, as intelligent as us, as capable as us. Now, this seems improbable to many people who are not familiar with AI, and indeed to the AI community before ChatGPT was launched. And people in 2022, experts were saying it's 20 to 40 years before we'll have AGI. Most people who are developing AI systems at the leading edge just now think AGI is 5 to 10 years away. And I find this simply staggering. I don't think we are anywhere near ready, whether it be in government specifically or humanity more generally, for systems that perform at that level, for systems that can do almost everything that we can do. Remarkable. And I think it'll be, in many ways, superb, and in many ways very damaging and destructive.
Do you believe the 5 to 10 year projection is a plausible future scenario?
I do. In fact, I talk in my book about near AGI, because we don't need to develop systems that can fully match us in all that we do to have systems that could have a mammoth effect on humanity and civilization.
How would you describe the main implications of that future AGI scenario that society needs to be preparing for now that we aren't?
I want to be clear that I'm less predicting AGI and more warning or asking that we plan for AGI, because it seems to me that technologists who understand the systems in detail regard this as such a serious possibility that we should do too. And so we need to think, for example, in our planning for AGI, about the ethical limits of these systems. It's meaningful to ask, if a system could match our performance, where are the areas we simply wouldn't want them to be involved? Where and when is it, for example, that we believe tasks and activities are intrinsically human? That's to say that their significance lies not just in their outcomes, but in how we go about whatever they might be, and that we have to have humans involved. And I think we need to start delineating those areas of activity that we're happy to delegate to machines, and those which we want to preserve for humans. I think we also need to think about the regulation of AI, although there's much discussion of that. That isn't really focusing on AGI. Most of the discussion about regulation, and in fact the ethics of AI, is looking at the latest versions of generative AI. So we need a deep public conversation about one of the greatest issues of our time. And I do believe we have time, because I think over the next 2 or 3 years, most of the work in AI is going to be about making what we already do as humans more efficient and more productive. But as we turn into the 30s, I believe we will be entering an era of great transformation. And I think revolution is not stating it strongly enough. And now is the time to start thinking through the policy, the ethical, the legal, the social, the economic, the cosmic significance of this.
Is it reasonable to expect, if we are able to create technologies that are equal or superior to human intelligence, that we would be able to control these technologies in such a way? Or does it sort of move beyond our ability to do that?
This is known as the problem of control. And there are divided views on this, but I think it has to follow, if we develop systems, maybe not that achieve what's known as AGI, but perhaps another level that I call superintelligence, where these systems are unfathomably more capable than us. I think it's naive to suppose that we can actually control systems that themselves are able to outperform us. And people say things like just turn them off. But it is clear that these systems will have fail-safes in place. It's clear that these systems can outmatch our own concept of what would be reliable and what would be the limits of these systems. I think these systems will perform in ways that we simply don't fathom and understand. And that's what I find so deeply disconcerting. It's exciting that so many benefits, for example, to global health, to global education, to global justice, to climate, will crack so many difficult problems of the day through this technology. But on the other hand, and I reckon, I say in the book, we've got about a decade to get this right. We have to make sure that these systems are within our control.
Mm. What do you see needs to change in order for that to become possible?
The gravest challenge in many ways is the differing views across many countries on this. So that even if in the UK we came to a view on where we thought the moral, ethical, legal, and so forth boundaries might be, I think it would be naive to suppose that the Chinese or even the Americans would agree with these limits. And so there is a little bit of an AI arms race going on. And although President Trump's plans to release the handbrake, as it were, to remove any new regulation over the next decade have been thwarted, nonetheless, I think we will see in other countries that they will be less morally constrained. And so the challenge, I believe, is one of international diplomacy, not unlike nuclear test ban treaty negotiation, where we must see collectively an existential threat and set global standards and under international law bind countries to them. You have to worry about non-state actors, however, as this technology becomes more affordable. By definition, those who would use them nefariously will not feel constrained by these regulations. But if we have a common view and a common purpose amongst leading nations, that at least would be a good start. And there's valuable work going on in this direction, but not perhaps with the urgency I would like.
Yeah. The geopolitical perspective can feel elusive for everyday people to engage with. What can ordinary folks do to practically engage and think about the future and even be part of shaping a more positive outcome?
The truth is that all of this, I think, is elusive for most of us. I specialize in the area and I find it personally elusive. I think the first thing that all of us should do, and we owe it to ourselves and our families and to our faiths, I suspect, is to immerse ourselves as users in the technology. Everyone's got a very strong view in the technology, not always so well informed. I think it's funny, having written this new book, and people say to me, I say, perhaps I've written a new book, and they say, oh, what's it on? And I tell them it's about AI. And they then tell me what they think about AI. The normal question when I've written a new book is, tell me more about your book. But everyone's got a view, but sadly, these views are not often really based on experience or understanding. So I think we owe it to all of ourselves to try and climb the learning curve and climb the experience curve as well. And I think we also have to, insofar as we live in democratic countries, engage with our politicians on these issues. And although there is debate, a lot of the debate just now, for example, over copyright and authors and musicians, is not insignificant, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a sideshow. Yes. And I think this sense, and there should be, of unease, and something even stronger, should be discussed by people in a democracy with their representative politicians. And so I'm calling for a major public debate, improved public discourse, answering this question, what if AGI? I think that's the question we should all be asking and answering in schools and universities and businesses and governments, charitable organizations, at home, over dinner. This is the question of our age.
Yeah, the existential question of our time. Richard, thank you so much for your time today.
Yes, if I may say, we say the existential question of our time. The way I put it is that saving humanity with and from AI is the defining challenge of our age. There's good and there's bad here. We just need to get the balance right.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.